In this video, we're going to take a look at a turquoise shimmering ink by Diamine Enchanted Ocean. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the turquoise playlist, so if you wanted to see more of them, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. As has become kind of the case with these, I have to hold it at an angle so we can really see it. Otherwise, the shimmer, like you see here, really makes it very hard to see. In general, we have no feather spread, halo sheen, no shading. The extra fine took 12 seconds to dry. The medium took 19 seconds to dry. Again, the scrubby for color variation is not very helpful to us because of the glitter that is going on there. The smear test says you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao. Then a Noodler's Ahab with a fountain pen Revolution gold nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. Our general performance is there's no feather spread, halo sheen. There's no shading. The extra fine took 19 seconds to dry. The medium took 29 seconds to dry. The scrubby is not showing us any kind of color variation, but it doesn't seem to really give any. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared it while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. We see where the line was put down, and we see this very dark turquoise really pushing its way up. Now, as it's moving up, it's kind of a grayish tone. We see then the darker turquoise at the top. So I think it's just a grayish tone in how it appears to my eye. I really don't see this as a complicated mix here. The one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes before it's put in the water, it really formed a line with that ink right in place, bonding with the paper. The rest of it is pushing its way up, and it's pretty uniformly bonding with the filter paper as it moves, gathering at the top. It does suggest that there could be some resistance for this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. Holding at an angle so that it can actually be seen. Our general performance is no feather spread, halo sheen. There is a couple of darker spots, like the K in quick, H in the. The word quick is very dark, and brown starts darker and gets lighter, so we do start to see a little bit of shading able to come through here. The extra fine took 13 seconds to dry. The medium took 19. The scrubby said there is no color variation in the writing, though I do get to see some spots of it. And the smear test, there's no recovering it if you smear while you're writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. The highlighter, I don't use this in a note-taking situation. It just starts to get a little bit weird looking. Now, you can read everything that's there, so you actually could use it if you wanted to. I just wouldn't. Now, when we get to see the total picture of this, we see why it can be very difficult to actually Photoshop, and this is a pain to color correct because of all this shimmer. The water is really reactivating and moving most of this ink, but we're seeing a light green still being left in place. The same thing happens with pen flush, where it's really not breaking this ink entirely down. The 1/3 bleach solution is completely obliterating it, but it only took water to get it out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on G-Lalo paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. Now the thing is, sometimes the shimmer makes it much harder to see and sometimes much easier. This is a more absorbent paper and it's a laid paper. So while we can see there's tons of shimmer here, we can, and it makes it harder to read, we can see some here. I'm still just going to turn it up to make it easier to actually C. Our general performance is no feather spread, halo sheen. We see spots of shading that are going on in the extra fine, but only in the extra fine, where quick seems to go darker to lighter to darker, and brown seems to go darker to lighter, where fox goes lighter to darker. The extra fine took 9 seconds to dry, where the medium took 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, but it does seem to show through a bit in the extra fine. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Enchanted Ocean has a viscosity of 1.58, making this a pretty wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all that's done, then there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on white lines paper. No bleeding, no ghosting, the only bleed spots at the scrubby. This is used because it's a bit more absorbent, taking control of some of that shimmer. The stub has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. You do see some of that glitter coming through here on camera, but it's much more manageable. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some spots of shading like lazy goes darker to lighter, fox goes lighter to darker, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 9 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both shows no color variation, though we do get it in the extra fine, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Most interesting to me is that the medium's not showing any of the glitter coming through where the extra fine is in some spots, and the stub is showing a lot. That's pretty darn interesting to me, and we're going to see there was still plenty of glitter in here when we get to the next writing sample. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Enchanted Ocean has an average dry time of 20 seconds, making it normal. The last writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. Now the thing is, this is where, we see that there was still plenty of shimmer in there, and it's funny because it came through much better on the medium than it did in the extra fine. I'm going to turn this up so we can actually see it now. Our general performance here then is that we have no feather spread, halo sheen. We get no shading at all in the medium. We do get a couple spots of it in the extra fine. I think that something went haywire sometimes with some of the shimmer, but that's where it's at. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry. The medium took 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, but the extra fine does have a couple spots where it comes through. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Enchanted Ocean, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice pink ink by Diamine, their Hope Pink. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Diamine's Enchanted Ocean? I didn't like this until I made a trip to the beach at night and watched the moonlight on the ripples of the mostly calm ocean. So yeah, now I enjoy it because that's actually what it looks like, is that sparkle of light off a night ocean. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A wet broad, of course, or a very wet medium. It just has to be a gusher of a pen. I just think that the broader lines look much better with these shimmer inks. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at KWZ's turquoise.